Good day and welcome back to another DB Legends video. In this video we're going to be taking a look at the brand new sparking Kyawei unit, and we're going to be taking a look at just how good she is in DB Legends and how I build her and use her in PvP. Now, a big thing with Kyawei is that basically she has some really strong utility. She's also a pretty fun unit that has a very interesting and unique playstyle. Well, yeah, pretty interesting and relatively unique playstyle. So basically a big thing with Kyawei is that she sets up her allies, which is pretty good. She has the ability to inflict bleeds on the opposition, which is also pretty good. She has the ability to control your enemy's vanishing gauge, which is pretty good. She debuffs them quite tremendously, which is again pretty good. And on top of all of that, she also has the ability to nullify health restoration effects when enemies reach 0, which is pretty good, and will make your enemy draw new cards, which again is pretty good. So what it does, or what she does, is she's very much similar in a sense to Kahseral, but whereas Kahseral was someone who could affect the game on cover change, she affects the game in a more offensive manner. She basically has the ability to disrupt your opponent's gameplay quite significantly if you can get on top of the opponent. Now, the important thing is that she has one really interesting gimmick, which is that when she vanishing steps for the first time, she will automatically gain another vanishing step, which is pretty crazy. If she is 50% or below, she also gains another vanishing step as well. So she has two ways to rapidly introduce her vanishing step back into combat, and on top of that, she also has the ability to remove our opponent's vanishing step. So between these two functionalities, you end up in a situation whereby as a unit, she has a very large impact on the tide of the battle. Her ability to be subbed in, vanishing step, potentially waste the opponent's vanishing step, instantly vanishing step them, then remove their vanishing step, remove their cards, is pretty powerful. Her control on that situation is also pretty good. And in terms of the kind of build you want to go for, you really want to try and focus on things that increase her strike damage and her health, and obviously as well, potentially also increase her special move damage, because these are very important things towards her overall performance. Now, Kyawei as a unit is pretty fun, and I think she's also very good from the perspective of being able to be utilized quite well by new players. Anytime a unit can vanishing step twice, vanish step is obviously it's a very crucial part of PvP, but spamming vanishing step or baiting vanishing steps is one of the big skill gaps in Legends PvP. So for players who manage to pull Kyawei, having a unit that can double vanish step is pretty imperative towards the overall kind of performance of the person in PvP. So me personally, I would say that Kyawei and her ability to double vanish step for new players can feel very good. And I think, in that sense, she's very solid, which is good overall, at least for me, because I am crap at the game. So I would say overall pretty solid stuff. Now, in terms of her general performance levels and just how well she does, I think Kyawei sits in a very decent space. They made her a sparking, which I think is very important. Sparking units generally do help the game. They have better stat baselines and extremes. So I think overall that's good for Kyawei as a unit, for her to sit in this space. I would say other than that, she's pretty solid. Like I don't see anything she does terribly, but I also don't see I don't see her being OP. I think she's in a good spot of being a really fun, really good unit that at the same time is just a lot of fun to use for players without being something too overtly toxic for the game and the player's gameplay. You can see she's doing some pretty decent damage. We have all of the vanishing steps that we need, which is good. She's really doing quite a solid job. And you can see those debuffs really rack up from her support capabilities. Like that green card is very good. You can see the restoration of our allies' health is also pretty clutch. And I would say overall, she sits in a position where she is really good as a unit in aiding her team, especially with some of the more fragile units. You know, like when I look at Hit, when I look at, for example, Goku and Frieza, one of the problems they have is that if they take a lot of damage and you sub them out, they can end up being too low to enter the battlefield again. Whereas with Kyawei, that's not an issue, because as a unit she, just has this ability to top them up, to give them that little bit extra health that they need, which I think is very, very good overall. So Kyawei is good in that respect. And anytime a unit destroys enemies' cards, even if it is on her, her ultimate skill, her other special, is still very good. Because whenever you can do that, whenever you can destroy the opposition's cards, you very much give them a huge tempo problem. It's the same reason why Jiren's transformation is so powerful as an ability. Because Jiren's transformation essentially stops like a large portion of the player base from being able to play their characters, which is a big deal. Like when you look at it overall and you look at the performance, being able to evade or being able to constantly stay on top of the opposition is something that's very crucial towards having a good control of the battlefield. So many characters can one-hit tempo control, one-hit combo, one-hit destroy you, and so having units like Kyawei who can kind of stop that tempo are very, very good, and I think overall just are solid in terms of performance. Now obviously we got a bit unlucky in this first fight. It always feels like the first fight just ends up not going as well as I wanted to. But I think she did a very good showing actually in the first fight. I think she showed a lot of what she can do as a unit, and I think that was very, very good overall. So for me, I was very impressed with her. She did the majority of our damage. Like I said, I didn't really play too well, but she did a very good job. And I think she's got enough to make her relevant for a while. Don't think she'll be a game changer, but even if you get her a couple months from now, or you just want to try out something different, I think Kyawei is a good option. Especially nowadays with units like Blue Zamasu still having such a big impact on the meta. Having a really strong green counter support option like Kyawei is very good. It is helpful. Obviously Ultra Gogeta still exists, which is a bit of a problem, I guess, but I still think there's enough to make everything function well enough. I still think there's a good enough unit and good enough teams and just good enough performance in general from Kyawei to get you to where you want to be and how you want to see the unit perform. So yeah, I would say, honestly speaking, very, very solid, very, very good. Beyond that, there's not too much to say. She's on a lot of teams. She doesn't have any specific requirements in terms of her team performance. So yeah, I would say Kyawei is probably a unit that you can definitely use. Is she as good as Jiren? difficult to say. I think Jiren also is very strong because he counters a lot of solid units in the meta. Like, he counters Ultra Gogeta, which I think is a big thing with Jiren. Kyawei doesn't necessarily counter Ultra Gogeta or anything like that, but overall she's just a very solid unit. So I would say that from that perspective she's very, very good. And she functions really well with the team, which is great. Yeah, you can see her really benefiting. She does fulfill a role, especially out of all the new latest units. So yeah, I would say overall Kyawei is a lot of fun and she's a good unit. How much you get out of her is going to depend on how lucky you are, or I should say how lucky you are, but I mean, yeah, how well you utilize her double vanishing step in the beginning of the game, because she can really set things up quite well. And then obviously beyond that, I would say, yeah, there's not too much else. You can see here, really, really cool. We're going to hit with the special move. This is, good from a lot of perspectives. Destroying all of their cards, setting us completely back up with another hand. Obviously they use their main ability, which is fine. They're going to defeat Kyawei, but you can see how well we're set up there. And obviously, they can always use their main ability to kind of counter this, but it's not really a big issue for us. I think overall, at the end of the day, the general functionality of the team is always going to be very good. And yeah, her combination with Jiren and the other USS units, I think, is very, very solid. So for me, I would say, there's no reason not to use Kyawei. I think if you're someone who's hesitant or maybe didn't think she's a good option, you should definitely give her as an option. And I think she's very simple. She does good stuff. Her green is good. It doesn't require any real skill gap. Her vanish step kind of alleviates the skill gap a bit. And her ultimate's good. Both of them. So I think without needing a unit that does ostensibly too much, I think Kyawei sits in the position of being really good enough to do enough of whatever she wants. So yeah, I would say from my side, Kyawei, good option. If you haven't used her, definitely should. And she should be sitting on your USS team. I think that's definitely apparent. I think she's a really nice flowing option with really good synergy with a lot of the new units that have come out. So I'm going to say you should definitely pick her up if you can. And if you have picked her up, consider using her as well. I think both of those things are very, very good. But yeah, that's basically going to be it from me. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did, I'll see you guys next time. So until then, stay safe, take care, and bye.